welcome to Responsum for CKD. I'm Bridget, and today we have the incredible opportunity to hear from a truly inspiring individual, Chris. Chris is not only an RN, but also a courageous kidney donor and passionate advocate for organ donation and community support. His personal journey as a kidney donor is a testament to his commitment to making a difference in the lives of others. And today, Chris will share his firsthand experience with the donation process, shedding light on what it means to give the gift of life, as well as his ongoing involvement in the community and how he's working to raise awareness and support for organ donation. So without further ado, let's welcome Chris.
Thank you. I'm holding for the applause.
You really deserve it. You've been such a active member of this community, and so we appreciate it.
So yes, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me today. My name is Chris, last name Melz, M-E-L-Z. I am a registered nurse. I'm a living kidney donor as well. I donated to a friend of mine in 2009, so it's been 15 years. I unfortunately lost him 2 years ago due to COVID. Um, but I think of him every day, and my mission for the Kidney Search Foundation is all done in his honor. Um, so
I'm so
yeah.
sorry for your loss.
It's one thing that I've always when I was at the transplant center that I was working with in the past, we would always educate our patients about that. I mean, when you're a recipient, you are placed on immunosuppressant medication that is going to do just what it says, suppress your immune system. So to help avoid your system from rejecting your new kidney, but at the same time, you are more susceptible for other issues. Common colds can be very detrimental, right? So that's why we always educate our patients on hand washing and washing your food and things of that nature. But yeah, unfortunately, COVID was just something that his body just couldn't handle. Prior to donating, I was a hip hop radio personality and tour DJ, and I'm still in that line of work to an extent. Certainly not to the level I once was, but so I say that to bring to the point that I was not in the medical field at that time, but I did have a friend who was sick, and he had diabetes since we were about 18, and I watched it affect his health through the years. And then in 2009, when he started dialysis, that's when I made a cold call to the transplant center that he was well, the hospital. He wasn't on the list yet, but the hospital that he was with at the time. And I told them that I wanted to find out more information about being a donor.
No? Did your friend know that you were calling to see
No,
if
no, no, no.
fit?
No, he didn't know at all. And see, that's another thing too. Pardon me if I jump around too, but
Oh, of course.
um, one of the other things that I always educate my patients on when I was with the transplant center is uh trying to find that ability to ask somebody to be a donor, because that's the biggest part of it. So many um patients are sick and just don't want to feel like a burden to somebody else. So they say, "Oh, I'm not going to ask somebody," and you can't always expect somebody's going to step up and say, "Hey, can I donate for you?" A lot of times it does, and I would say usually it happens more often where somebody will step up and say, I'd like to donate," as opposed to waiting for you to ask them. But I always try to instill in my patients that it's important to find that courage to ask, because that is the first step.
Yes.
But with Will, no, he never asked. I was actually the only person, and we're not blood related, so he does have family members. And again, nobody's obligated to offer, but I was the only person that got tested, and And so that in itself was pretty amazing that we ended up being, a match. We didn't know each other's blood types. I didn't have a bracelet on my arm or anything with my blood type on it. Either did he. So that was the first step, and we were able to get past that.
Did you have any hesitations once you decided, or when you found out that it was your friend, were you just ready to go? And was there ever a moment of pause where you're like, should I do this? What does this mean for my future?
Right. So for me, the answer is no, because that's just my personality. I apply that into everything that I do. Once I set my mind to something, I go. I do it. Of course, something like that is different than with when it comes to like investing in a new business or something. This is something that's directly affects my health, somebody else's health. So you do put that into consideration when making that decision. But
Right.
for me, I always looked at it that I just felt like I didn't have the right to just go on to live my life carefree and be able to go and do what I want when I want, knowing that somebody else who would love to have that same opportunity, somebody that I care about, and somebody that's always cared about me, has always had my back when we, did things together in the music industry.
Mhm.
I just felt that I had an obligation to do my part, at least try to do my part, see how I could help him. And again, not everybody thinks like that. Not everybody's um, obligated to think like that, but that's just how I am and how I saw that situation.
Yeah. It sounds like it was a mutual blessing to have each other in your lives all those years.
Oh yeah, I mean we had been friends since
Yeah.
junior high, and so when you have that type of friendship, it it does all of a sudden kind of just smack you in the face when you realize, wow, things aren't always going to be like this. And as we get older, our health changes, and it starts to affect us and what we can do, and ultimately the length of our life. So
Mhm.
so yeah, instantly it just made me know that that's what I wanted to do.
When you first decided, so walk me through after you found out you were a match, what happened between then and the donation? Like, was there
Sure.
testing involved?
Absolutely. Without going into all the different tests and the length of them, absolutely. See, the goal is to make sure that the donor will be able to live a healthy life post donation, right? Because, and this is something that again we educate our patients, is that and the donors, being our patient as well, that you're not gaining anything from this experience other than the satisfaction of knowing that you were able to help somebody else. So it's not going to make me healthier, but they also at the same time want to make sure that it's not going to make you it's not going to affect your health in a negative way. So yeah, so of course there's plenty of tests, various tests. There's overall just just to check the engine to make sure everything is working good, and long term I'll be able to continue to live a healthy life. So to put it in perspective of how long that took, the first cold call that I made to the hospital was in August of 2008, the end of August, and we had our surgery on April 21st, 2009.
Okay.
So it's roughly 7 months around there without using my fingers to count.
Yeah. I'll take your word for that. So, what was your recovery process like? Did it go as according to plan? Did you run into anything that you weren't expecting?
Well, yeah. So post surgery in the hospital, I had a lot of gas pain and other pains that are relative to that procedure, and that are common. So that I think kept me in the hospital for a few more days than was initially expected. But um, But again, even small things like that, looking back at it, even the amount of pain I was in at the time, I do it again in a heartbeat. But
I
as far as like, as far as how it affected my life, even, post transplant, past the hospital stay. For me personally, there was no change. I work for myself. I worked for myself back then, so that's always a major concern for individuals who are thinking of donating. In their heart they want to do it, but the reality of their life is, hey, look, I can't afford to take off for work for X amount of days for recovery, and I'm the breadwinner of my family, so so unfortunately a lot of that comes into play when people make that final decision, insurance issues and things like that. But a lot of that has changed in the last 15 years. Again, without getting into all that, a lot of that has changed as well. But to make it a little more comforting for somebody who does want to donate. But that's something that's a major consideration.
I'm really curious about you're so passionate about educating and awareness. I'd love to hear with what you know now through all of your experience, do you feel that you were adequately prepared prior to your transplant, that they gave you all the information that you needed, that you felt all your questions were answered, or do you wish there were things you had been told prior?
No, no, absolutely. So, and that's the key to being with a great transplant center, and for honestly, all transplant centers are of that caliber as far as I'm concerned, because there's are certain criteria that you have to adhere to in order to even to be a transplant center, right? So, and everybody that I've worked with has always been professional as far as knowing knowing their job and knowing what their need to relate to the patients as far as education. So yeah, my process in the beginning, they walked me through everything and provided me with all the information I needed, provided me with videos to watch, and it's all part of the process, right? And yeah, I received everything. Plus, I'm always an advocate to to find out information on your own too. Any questions you have, you ask, but there's a lot of research that you can do on your own to help kind of fill the void of any you know uh, questions you may have or misunderstandings.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power.
It is.
So I'd love to hear post-transplant. I know you've dedicated so much of your life to this community and to advocacy and awareness. Can you go into a bit of how this led to your foundation
Sure,
and what?
absolutely. So post transplant, I decided I wanted to share my story, and I've always made a point to say that sharing my story has never been a way to give myself a pat on the back. It's always been the purpose of it is for me. I feel that, and again, not every donor is obligated to feel the same way. Some people respect their privacy more than others. But my whole point is that for me, I just felt that going through that type of process and just those series of events, it did change me as a person, and how I think, and how I see the power that anybody can hold as far as being able to help somebody else that they care about. So I wanted to be able to share my story so people who are considering being a donor can see that it's not the big bad scary procedure that they've been told it is, or thought it was. And that, yeah, of course, again, you have to make sure that you're healthy enough and that you are able to recover in an appropriate amount of time and things like that. But moving forward, it's like anything. When you get older in your life, you want to pay attention. You kind of just automatically start to pay attention more to your health and what you put into your body on a regular basis, whether you donate it or not.
Right.
But so um, so yeah, really, it's really just um was time for me to start sharing my story. So I initially started reaching out to a few other nonprofits on very soon after the surgery, I started speaking at different events and sharing my story. And then I decided I wanted to do more. So I decided to go back to school and I became a registered nurse. Um, and so that was a great experience going through that. And then once I became a nurse, I started working for a local OPO, which is an organ procurement organization here in New York. And OPOs, every state has one. Most states have many, multiple OPOs. And the purpose of the OPO is to facilitate the donation process through the patient, or usually a patient's family, and the hospital. So my job as a nurse with the OPO was to um, assess the deceased patient for the viability for donation. And then I also worked where I went bedside and spoke with the family members of a patient who at the time was on a ventilator, a patient that was brain dead and ultimately was going to be able to donate some organs and talk to the family about that. And um, so again, it's advocating for donation. That was a very, very tough job because you're reminded every second of how precious life is and how we all hope to live to be 80, 90 years old. But, there's many cases that I had where the individual lived to a fraction of that age. Um, so, being an advocate for donation, it can go into many different fields, that being one of them. But again, it could be very emotional to do that. And then from there, I went on to end up working actually for the same transplant center that Will and I had our surgery at.
Oh, that's
And
incredible.
yeah, me, I've always been a networking guy, and anything I
Yeah.
do, I've always been able to network with individuals and stay in contact with people and build a rapport. And that's what I did with that transplant center. And so I ended up working as a transplant, a nurse, a coordinator on the transplant team there. And during that period is when I was educating my patients, one of the first questions I asked was, "Do you have a living donor in mind?" That helps speed up the process if you come already with somebody who possibly could be your donor. Whether you guys have been tested and know you're a match or not, that's the first step. But usually, I would say 8 out of 10 times, a patient would say, "No, I don't know, have anybody. I haven't asked anybody. I don't even know where to begin." And they just didn't even understand the power, the benefits that come with receiving from a living donor over a deceased donor. Don't get me wrong, receiving that call and getting that kidney from a deceased donor is the gift that every patient is looking for. But the reality is, receiving from a living donor does um, equate to a better quality of life post transplant. It just does. Um, so again, at that moment during that period, that's when I realized so many patients didn't know how to begin. So then I thought of the Kidney Search Foundation. Um, I had thought about it in the past before that, but at the time I was working at the hospital, and before that I was working with the OPO. So in my mind, I just assumed that would be a conflict of interest and probably just wasn't the right time in my life to start it. But then when I was working at the hospital, that's when I said, you know what? I've always been the kind of guy that tries different things and stays somewhere for a while, but I'm not married to this hospital. I don't need to be here forever. So I gathered my experiences, and then I said, you know what, I'm gonna branch off and start this nonprofit because I feel like that's where I can excel the most as far as to give what I can give to the kidney community.
Nice. All your different experiences really can come into play in one
Yeah.
place. And that's an incredible way to share your knowledge.
I had brought up before about being a hip hop
Uh-huh.
tour DJ and radio personality, and that does play a part into what I do now to the regard of promotion.
Of course,
You
yeah.
know, and no matter what the service is or the product is, everything needs a certain amount of promotion um in order to make it work. And so I've always had the knack for promoting and making contacts and coming up with ideas to get the word out for certain things. So essentially, um, promoting somebody's need for a living donor is kind of in the same process as promoting somebody's new album.
Mhm.
And I say that, obviously there's vast differences, but again, it's about some type of product or service, and knowing how to get the word out there and how to connect those dots.
Definitely. So the Kidney Search Foundation, how does that connect those dots?
Sure. So that's what it is. So the Kidney Search Foundation is the name of the organization, and we've been servicing now for little over 2 years. Well, it's been 3 years since we started, but like the first 6 or 8 months, well, I was still filing the paperwork. I wasn't able to take any donations, so at the time everything was coming out of the pocket, and for the most part, a lot of times it still does. But um so we really started servicing patients in July of 2021. So what we do is, during this period of the last several years, we've changed, as time goes on, I've changed some of the format of how we do what we do. So if someone wants to come to us, they simply go to the website. There's plenty of page sections there where they'll be guided to send us an email, reach out to us. And then what we do is everybody right off the bat, all of our services are 100% free. We don't charge anybody for anything. Of course, we are always vocal about, we'll take every donation that we can receive, because donations are what fund our mission.
Mhm.
But when somebody comes to us, automatically they receive a profile page on our website. We list all the contact information for them, for the transplant center, the pictures that they'd like to share, story about themselves, and things of that nature. So that's a profile page that everybody gets. And then over that, they also receive some promotional items. Now, what we can give them is kind of endless, but we do try to, in the beginning, try to kind of help pinpoint the options to make it so we can help as many individuals as possible. So when somebody comes to us, they'll receive the profile page, and then they have the choice of, they can have a couple of t-shirts with their information on it. We can make them some car window decals, car magnets, lawn signs, business cards, a banner, things like that they can use to personalize it, put their information on their blood type, whatever they want to share with the masses, with the hopes of getting in front of the right eyes, somebody who's, interested in being their donor.
And we've seen that on like social media and things. You've seen stories of people who have found their donors by wearing the shirt to Disneyland or
Yep.
something like that. And it's just crazy. The promotion, it works. It really
Well,
does.
it does. So I have, so right now on our website, I have 50 profiles. To this date, we've helped 100, we've serviced 117. I keep a tally on the website, but I think right now it's up to 117 patients that we've serviced. And some of those were early on before we came up with the profile section. So some of those patients never had a profile page on our website, but at least for the last 2 years, everybody's had a profile page, and right now we have 50 profiles up there. But we've had a few success stories. One of them was a guy that's further out west. Um, and we had sent him his car decals, and he drove around with them on his car, on his truck. And then he had reached out to me about 6 months ago and said, "Hey, I've been meaning to contact you. I've basically said I keep forgetting." He
Yeah.
said, "I wanted to let you know that um I received my kidney." He said it was because of the window decal. He said I drove around with it on my truck, and I received a lot of calls. So a lot of them were just didn't go anywhere. But he said I did receive one of those calls was somebody who was passionate about donation, and ended up getting tested and ended up being his donor.
That's incredible.
And I said, I kind of laughed at when he said, I forgot to tell you. I get it. There's a lot to process post
Yeah.
transplant. But I kind of um do want all my clients to know that that's equally important for us to have that information as well, because for us, that's what we need in order for people to really see the impact of what we're doing. But it's great to know that. And the other um story was a more recent, within the last 2 months, I think. There's a young man, he's 22, he's here in New York,
Mhm.
and he has a profile, well, had a profile page on our website. We gave him these promotional items. And then apparently there was somebody in Chicago who wanted to be an altruistic donor, and just donate a kidney to whoever was in need. And so apparently this individual, again, somebody who I don't know, haven't met, haven't spoken to, apparently they went on our website uh, to look for somebody that perhaps they could donate to.
Wow.
And they found this individual. And for him, they weren't a match. So they ended up doing what's called a paired kidney exchange.
Mhm.
So that individual received a kidney, and so did somebody else. But again, it was from him coming to our website looking for somebody to donate to. I guess found this individual's profile and was inspired by his story, and you know, move forward with the process.
I was thinking back to what you said earlier about um, educating and helping your patients find the courage to ask. And I feel like those promotional materials might also help people open the door to conversations with people in their immediate life because, the magnet's on their car, it's on their front lawn. It kind of gives space to open that conversation with family and friends where you wouldn't know how to start it either.
Right. So that's actually a very good point, because um one of the things that we ask our clients is to give us a testimonial at some point, a couple weeks or month after they received everything. They've had time to put the items on their car or in their yard or wear the shirt or whatever. And most of those testimonials state just that, it's been a great way for them to spark that conversation, and they get stopped a lot and asked about, kidney disease in general,
Mhm.
you know, and then at the same time, our clients have been able to share their story. So that's exactly what it is. If anything, it's a good conversation starter.
Will's in your friendship has impacted so many lives, not only just by your willingness to share and to learn more and to help others with what you know. I'd love to know just if you have any advice to someone that's on the fence, uh, just anything that you'd like to share with the masses here.
Sure. No, if anybody's on the fence, whether, and again, that on the fence could be with being a patient on dialysis, and on the fence to whether or not they even want to go through with receiving a kidney. I've met patients that, one, and literally she told me that she's been on dialysis for 20 years, and it blew my mind because I've never had any patients that I dealt with directly that had been on, because dialysis is a wonderful technology, but it's a temporary fix. The unfortunate part is that many patients die while on dialysis waiting for a kidney. But yeah, there are plenty of patients out there that would rather stay on dialysis than have a transplant because they're afraid. They're afraid there's, misunderstanding, miseducation. There's just that distrust with in the medical field, which is a reality for a lot of people. So yeah, stories like my story and other stories that are just the same. It is important for people to be able to hear it because that could be what makes somebody say, you know what, all right, so now I have a different outlook on it, and maybe I will explore the opportunity, um, you know, a little, a little harder than I was before.
Mhm. Do you have any resources that you'd like to share? Any last words that you'd like to impart?
Sure, no, absolutely. I would just love for everybody to visit our website. It's just kidneysearchfoundation.org. Please go on there. Please feel free to hit the contact buttons on there so you can reach out to us directly. We're certainly here to help answer any questions. And again, I can't, stress enough the importance of donations. If anybody feels that donating to our organization is something that they would like to do, all our donations go strictly to funding our mission. And it's just go, if you can, go to the website, learn about everything that we're doing.
Thank you so much for joining us, Chris. I know you've mentioned, you're not looking for a pat on the back, but I'd like to offer it on behalf of our community because your insight and experiences are truly inspiring, and we're grateful for the important work that you're doing. Your dedication to advocating for organ donation and supporting the community is making such a huge difference in the world.
Honestly, not to go deep into it, but the world would be a much better place if people weren't so afraid to explore other cultures, other just ways of life, and maybe filling their life with more empathy towards other people's situations and stories, and knowing that how at some point somebody else's problem can spill over to where it affects you, and perhaps you are the element that they need to, resolve their issue. So we're all kind of interconnected at some point, and for me, I feel it's important to see life, through that lens, because it would make, and it can make, and it will make the world a better place if everybody just kind of, and again, was more empathetic and just, more at ease with going out of their comfort zone and helping others.
Of course, I completely agree. Exploring is how you find your purpose.
And that's all I have to say about that. That's my Forrest Gump impression. Thank you.
To our listeners, watchers today, we hope you found this conversation as enlightening and motivating as we did. If you're interested in learning more about organ donation, be sure to check out all the resources linked in this video. Of course, Chris, your foundation will be there, and we encourage you to make a donation if you can, to spread the word, share it with your network, and help us to get the word out here. As Chris has done, you've seen and heard what a powerful impact that can make. So if you enjoyed this episode, please go ahead and share and leave us a comment with what you liked best. But thank you again for tuning in, and a special thank you to Chris for sharing your journey and your passion with us today.
My
We look
pleasure.
forward to
Thank you.
bringing more inspiring conversations soon. So until next time, take care and stay connected. Thank you, Chris.
You got it. Thank you.